I'm sitting watching all the stuff and, like Bill Simmons saying, let's draft them and use them as like all that's unnecessary.
Shaq just dropped footage involving Bronny James, and the internet says LeBron completely lost it after seeing it. That is the headline spreading everywhere right now. But before you run with that, there is a much bigger story underneath all of it. One that started years before the draft, years before any of this became a viral moment, and one that explains exactly why this situation keeps exploding every time Shaq grabs a microphone and Bronny's name comes up. Because Shaq is not some random critic taking shots at LeBron's son from a distance. He is someone who has known Bronny since he was a child. Someone who has publicly called him family on national television more than once. Someone who watched this kid grow up in the same extended basketball family circle that both the James and the O'Neal families have shared for years. Stay with us, because the full picture is a lot more interesting than the clickbait version you have already seen.
I'm happy for Bron. I'm happy for Bronny. I've been knowing Bronny ever since he was a kid.
That is the exact word Shaq used. Not once. Not in one interview. Every single time the topic of Bronny James came up, on any platform, in any conversation, in any appearance, that was his word, his nephew, his family. The kid he had watched grow up right alongside his own son.
My son and my son are practically best friends, so I'll treat this situation like Bronny.
He has been knowing Bronny since he was a kid. That is not a media line or a carefully worded PR statement. That is two NBA families who have genuinely shared the same world for years. Shaq and LeBron both played in Los Angeles. Both built legacies that extended far beyond the basketball court. Their sons grew up around the same people in the same extended circle. And Shaq also went through his own version of this exact story, with his son Sharif watching his own child try to build a basketball career under the enormous weight of a legendary last name that opened every door and added pressure to every single step at the same time. So when Bronny's journey started drawing comparisons and criticism from every direction, Shaq understood what that pressure actually felt like from the inside in a way that most people commenting on the situation from the outside simply could not.
Bronny James.
That's who you would like to get a break from the scrutiny.
Yeah, my nephew.
On TNT, on national television, in front of millions of viewers, Shaq called Bronny his nephew one more time, and the clip spread everywhere instantly. That moment captured exactly what made this whole story so complicated. On one side, the Shaq who had known this family for decades and genuinely wanted Bronny to find his footing in the league. On the other side, the Shaq who had a job as an NBA analyst, a job that required honest and direct breakdowns of player performance, regardless of personal history. The internet was not going to let those two versions of Shaq coexist peacefully. Every clip got chopped up and reposted with a new caption. The supportive uncle version and the honest analyst version got spliced together to create a narrative that neither one fully represented on its own. But underneath all of it sat the one question nobody wanted to answer directly. Did Bronny earn his spot, or did his last name do the heavy lifting?
He's a kid, great kid. All he wants to do is play. It's unfortunate for kids like
his son and Shaq's son, best friends. Practically brothers growing up together side by side. That is the real foundation under all of this noise and all of this drama. Not content, not clicks. Not a manufactured storyline designed to generate views and keep people arguing. Two families genuinely connected for years before any of this became a story anyone outside their circle was paying attention to or building headlines around.
To live up to what we have done. I tell my kids all the time, pressure is when you don't know where your next meal is coming.
Every late second-round pick is a gamble. The 55th selection in the NBA draft is not a guaranteed roster spot for anyone. It is a calculated swing on potential and upside. That is exactly how the Lakers framed the decision when they selected Bronny James in June 2024. But the internet did not receive it that way at all. The moment Adam Silver announced the pick, the nepotism conversation exploded across every platform at the same time. Everyone remembered LeBron had openly talked about wanting to share an NBA court with his son before he retired. Rich Paul had reportedly made it clear that teams needed to factor in LeBron's wishes around Bronny, and now the pick was official and on the board. The pressure on Bronny went from significant to completely suffocating overnight. Every single performance got analyzed through the lens of whether he actually deserved to be there at all. Every quiet game became evidence for one argument. Every highlight became a counter-argument for the other side. And Shaq kept getting asked about it everywhere he appeared. Because his answer every single time was rooted in the same place. Family first, that is my nephew. If you are finding this valuable, hit subscribe right now. We cover the full story, not just the headline. Because that is where the real conversation lives, between what actually happened and what the internet decided to.
We'll get tested by every veteran, by every similar player that doesn't have the follow.
That name, that is his daddy's name. That line did not come from a random stranger or a social media critic with no connection to the game. It came from inside the actual conversation, and it cut through everything else in the debate because it said out loud exactly what a large portion of the basketball world was already thinking, but choosing not to say directly on camera. Bronny James did not arrive in the NBA on the strength of his scouting report alone. His last name carried weight. His father's stated desire to play alongside him before retiring carried weight. The pressure of navigating that kind of legacy, from the moment you first pick up a basketball as the child of one of the most famous athletes alive, is something very few people in the entire history of this sport have ever had to figure out in real time under that level of public scrutiny. But here is the part that keeps getting buried. That pressure is not unique to Bronny James. It is the same weight Shareef O'Neal carried. And Shaq understood exactly what that felt like from both sides. The name opened the door. The father's dream shaped the entire situation. But what happens next on that floor? Whether Bronny builds something real or quietly fades, that part still belongs entirely to him. No headline can write that ending for him. Only the work can.
If you want to be the Magic, the Kobe Bryant, the Shaquille O'Neal, he knows you got to win a championship.
Not a real Laker until you put a banner in the stadium. Shaq set the standard clearly. No exceptions for legacy picks. No softening for famous last names. You earn it on the floor, or you have not earned it at all.
And Shaq, I remember one of his quotes. He was like, "You're not a real Laker until you put a banner in the stadium."
LeBron furious after Shaq leak. Bronny humiliated by NBA legends. That is what the headlines said. That is what the viral accounts posted with dramatic music and slow-motion clips attached. That is the version that spread to millions of people who never went looking for the actual context or the actual facts behind any of it. Here is what actually happened. No footage was leaked. LeBron did not publicly lose it in any verifiable or documented way. Shaq did not release anything designed to humiliate or embarrass Bronny James in front of the basketball world. What actually existed were clips of Shaq doing his job as an NBA analyst, breaking down a young player's performance the same honest way he broke down every other player who came through the league. The content farm version of this story, and the real story behind it, are two completely different things. And the gap between them is exactly where most of the internet was living while this narrative was spreading. The headline was engineered to make you click. The reality was far more human than any caption suggested. And every time someone chose the dramatic caption over the actual context, every time the algorithm rewarded the fake version more than the honest one, the real story got a little harder to find. That pattern does not just affect this story. It affects every story involving famous names and viral headlines. The gap between the post and the truth is where the real conversation should be happening.
Watching all the stuff and, like Bill Simmons saying, let's draft him and use them as like all that's unnecessary.
They have to live up to what we have done. And then Shaq reframed the entire pressure conversation. Real pressure is not performing under bright lights with millions of people watching. Real pressure is not knowing where your next meal is coming from. NBA kids have access, resources, and opportunity that most people never see in their entire lives. The weight of a famous last name is real, but it sits on an entirely different foundation than the
18, 19 years old. I hope he gets drafted. I hope he makes it. And I hope he can do it on his own.
Kids, 18, 19 years old. I hope he gets drafted. I hope he makes it. That is the Shaq that exists underneath all the noise. Not the clickbait version. Not the leaked footage headline. The man who watched Bronny grow up year after year alongside his own son, who called him family in every public forum available to him, who genuinely wants to see this kid build something in this league that belongs entirely to him, not just to his father's name and everything that name already carries in basketball history. That version of the story never gets as many views as the fake feud version, because hope does not travel as fast as outrage. Nuance does not generate clicks the way conflict does. But it is the true version, and it is the one that matters when you step back from all the dramatic captions and actually look at what these people have said and how long they have genuinely known each other. The truth about this situation has always been more complicated and more human than any single headline could capture. And that is exactly why it keeps coming back. So tell me, do you think Bronny James can build his own NBA legacy that stands apart from his father's name? Drop your honest answer in the comments right now. Like and subscribe for more breakdowns that go past the headline. Because this conversation is just getting started.